The Journey of the Winter Rose. Once upon a time, there was a kingdom nestled in lush green valleys, a land that enjoyed the most beautiful colors and bounty of all 4 seasons. This kingdom was ruled by young Prince Alistair, whose heart was filled with compassion and whose word was always trusted. His greatest joy was spending time in the vast gardens behind the palace with the old gardener Bertram. Bertram was a wise man who understood the language of the earth and knew the story of every plant. The most treasured possession of this garden was a legendary flower called the winter rose, which could bud even in the icy air, its petals intricately patterned like snowflakes. According to legend, this rose was the heart of spring. It was believed that thanks to the winter rose, after the long winter nights, spring would surely come, and greenery and vitality would return. The rose drew its life from a hot spring known as the earth's warm tears, which welled up from deep within the earth to the surface. These magical waters gave life to the rose and protected it from the freezing cold. But that winter was harsher and more relentless than anyone could remember. For weeks, snow had fallen without cease, and a fierce wind, accompanying the most violent storms, made sounds like wolf howls through the tree branches and on the rooftops of the houses. One morning, Gardener Bertram found Prince Alistair, his face pale. "Your Excellency," he said, his voice trembling with worry, "the woodcutters from the forest bring grim news. A massive landslide has occurred in the mountains. The flow of the warm water has changed direction. I fear the winter rose will no longer get enough warmth and its roots will freeze. If we don't act before it's too late, the rose will wither and spring will never come again." Prince Alistair stood up, the news chilling his heart like the cold storm raging outside. He rushed to the garden. He saw that the winter rose's leaves, which once shimmered with the most beautiful and vibrant colors, had now faded, and a thin layer of ice had formed over its bud. His compassion immediately spurred him into action. For the future of his people and the balance of nature, he had to save this rose. As a trustworthy leader, he quickly assembled a team. He took the wise gardener Bertram with him to safely carry the rose. Their guide was a goldfinch named Blue, whose feathers were a brilliant blue and whose energy brought joy to everyone, yet he was equally shy. Blue would perch on the highest treetops and see the farthest distances, but he often didn't even dare to chirp cheerfully. On the second day of their journey, on a snowy path, they encountered a large wolf trying to remove a thorn stuck in its paw. The prince approached without hesitation. The wolf growled, but seeing the compassion in the prince's eyes, it calmed down. The prince carefully removed the thorn and cleansed its wound. The grateful wolf became a loyal ally to them. With its sharp senses and ability to sniff out safe paths through the snow, it had now become a reliable member of the team. The journey was filled with new challenges at every step. Icy cold winds froze their faces, and progressing through the deep snow was nearly impossible. One evening, as they searched for a cave to take shelter, they almost got lost because of Blue's timidity. He hadn't dared to mention a path he had seen, until the prince encouraged him. "Blue," said the prince with a warm smile, "your voice isn't only beautiful in song. Your thoughts are also very valuable to us. Use your voice to guide us." These words changed something in Blue. From that moment on, he reported every obstacle they faced, scouting ahead from high above like a pioneer. His excitement was no longer an emotion he couldn't control. His instincts had sharpened like a compass. Finally, after days of arduous travel, they reached the mouth of a cave on the mountainside. This was where the warm water emerged from within the mountain and flowed. Steam mixed with the freezing air, spreading a warm breath around them. They set to work at once. Gardener Bertram, with trembling hands, dug into the frozen soil in the large pot he had been carefully carrying for days. With great care, so as not to damage the winter rose's delicate roots, he lifted it from the pot. Prince Alistair wrapped the rose in his own cloak, trying to protect it with his body heat. Then, together, they planted the rose in the fertile soil at the edge of the spring. At first, it seemed as if nothing had happened. The rose lay lifeless and pale. They all watched it with hope and anxiety. Then slowly, a miracle began to unfold. With the revitalizing touch of the warm water, the ice on the rose's leaves melted. The pale colors transformed into a vibrant pink. Its bud opened slightly, and from within, a light and sweet fragrance, like the first breath of spring, spread out. At that moment, outside the mountain, the heavy clouds in the sky began to disperse, and the first spring sun warmed the earth after a long absence. But their mission was not yet complete. Gardener Bertram said, "The rose is safe for now, Your Excellency, but its true home is the palace garden. The obstacle blocking the water must be removed so the rose can return home." With the power of the snow now melting with the arrival of spring, they set about clearing the gigantic rocks and pile of earth blocking the water's path. This was the most challenging part of their journey. The prince and the wolf worked together to push the heaviest rocks. The gardener swung his pickaxe and shovel at the right spots, while Blue, from above, identified the weakest points and guided them. They all sweated, grew tired, but did not give up. Finally, as they pushed a large boulder together, a cracking sound was heard, and the water began to flow joyfully back into its old channel. The clear, warm waters once again made their way towards the kingdom, towards the palace garden. Victorious and at peace, they took the winter rose and returned to their kingdom, accompanied by the song of the following warm stream. They planted the rose back in its original spot in the palace garden, now warm again and nourished by the magical waters. That spring, the kingdom experienced a season more beautiful than ever before. The colors of the flowers were more vibrant, and the songs of the birds were more cheerful. As Prince Alistair watched the garden from the balcony, Blue landed beside him, and the wolf lay down loyally at his feet. Gardener Bertram paused from his work in the garden, wiped his brow, and looked at the prince with a proud smile. The prince understood that his compassion and trustworthiness had saved not just a flower, but the hope of an entire kingdom, and he saw what friends with different talents could achieve together. And that night, the soothing scent spread by the winter rose in the garden invited the entire kingdom into the deepest and sweetest of sleeps.